Recording
It'll
in
be open for
progress.
discussion, questions, sharing, and then Kayla will go over our new member portal, and then we'll also share some updates and services that we're launching this year. So with that, I will introduce you to our expert speakers. So you will hear from Brennan Graham, who's the CEO of Alexandria Youth Network. He's also chair of the board for the National Network for Youth. And you will also hear from Pat Holterman-Homus, who's president and CEO of Youth in Need and also vice chair of the board for the National Network for Youth. And with that, I want to thank both Pat and Brennan, and then I will pass it over to Pat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darla. It's great to be with all of you today as we navigate this world that we're living in now. I appreciate the network for putting this on. As Darla said, I'm Pat Holterman-Homus, President and CEO of Youth in Need, which is in St. Louis, Missouri. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Slide. I just wanted to start by just telling you just a little bit about Youth in Need. It's probably similar to many of your organizations. We were founded as a youth shelter back in 1974, 51 years ago. And over the years, we've expanded our supports for runaway and homeless youth and evolved to develop early intervention and prevention programs for children of all ages and their families. And I have been with Youth in Need since I came as an intern when I was working on my master's degree in 1989, and then I was hired as a therapist in 1990, and I've been president and CEO since 2013. So I've been here a good long time. Slide. Our program areas are basically in four buckets: our comprehensive housing and support, which is all of the runaway and homeless youth services. We have many of the RHY grants, the street outreach program, basic center shelter, TLP, and maternity group home. We also get rapid rehousing support. And our TLP is we have a group home and an apartment program. We have mental health counseling that's school-based and community-based. We employ about 60 master's level therapists, foster care case management, and then Head Start early learning programs, which is our largest program for our littlest clients. And we have home-based, center-based, and center-based services, and then work with a network of community partners. Slide. So just to give you an idea of the size and scope of our organization, we serve about 8,000 children and youth every year, and that includes LGBTQ plus youth, teen parents, and many people experiencing poverty. We have about 500 employees, a $35 million annual operating budget. Of that budget, 60% is federal funding, and the majority of that is for Head Start, about $20 million. And we serve 7 counties in eastern Missouri. Next slide. That's where we serve in Missouri. We have about 20 of our own locations that we provide services out of, and we have staff who work out of many community locations, including over 50 public schools, churches, boys and girls clubs, etc. Where we serve is from in the east is the St. Louis City proper urban area. And as you go out further west, you go through the suburbs and then into the more rural counties toward mid-Missouri. It's a very red state. St. Louis itself is a little green or a little blue island, but it is a very deep red state politically. So fast forward to January of 2025. When I think I'm probably speaking for all of you that we began to face some unprecedented challenges to our funding, to our values, to our principles, and even to our future. With the executive order, the funding threats, and all of those things. We had the funding freeze debacle in late January, threat of a government shutdown, and it's truly just been kind of upside down world ever since. And so Darla just asked me to share kind of how we have approached all this and how we kind of organized to respond. We're definitely not telling you what to do, and I look forward to hearing some of your stories and how you have helped navigate this. I do know that it can be different if you're living in a red state or a blue state, and that you may have a different outlook or different types of support. But we've definitely been trying to stay true to our values and protect our funding has really been at the core of everything we've done. Next slide. Just some of the things that informed our decision making are up there, and I'm going to talk about those separately, but those are kind of the things that were inputs into our decision making. So next slide. It was reminding us a lot about COVID. And I heard that come up when I was on different larger group meetings with my colleagues, that it felt like a but different things would come out. You didn't know what to believe. And it was similar with this, a lot of rumors. And so we're very fortunate to have the National Network for Youth as that trusted partner. And the National Council on Nonprofits. Again, but not in system issues in late January by the hour and the day. And so we really had to tell ourselves, like, slow down, take a breath. Not everything has to be decided right now. And that not all solutions are in the boardroom or at the executive leadership table. And it's important to engage those who are most impacted. And, there's so forth, and started to make some decisions. But it became quickly apparent at our leadership table, which is my team, that there was we weren't all on the same page. You can go to the next slide, Darla. We had staff and leaders who were worried that we would stick to our guns about our values and risk our funding where everybody outside of a meeting, just on their own, everybody individually populated with Post-it notes of their thoughts on what they thought our guiding principles should be. And it was things like, lean into both and, hold on to hope, harness our compassion and resilience, protect our funding to make sure that we're here for the children, youth, and families who rely on us. And it was a really good process, allow that through this process. So little notes by themes, commented on them, and discussed areas of friction. And what that resulted in was a set of shared agreements or guiding principles, which is on the next slide. And we had a little acronym piece to try to if we stick to our guns on that, transparency, to be accountable of all of our stakeholders. And we have from day one, I mean, I send out emails immediately, and staff feel good that they know what is happening. Next slide. So we went into contingency planning mode. I won't go over all of that. Certainly the continuing resolution was passed. It also became apparent that and definitions before we took any major actions. In the meantime, we would and they update it every week. So we really decided we intended to do what's necessary to protect our funding while maintaining our core values, but we were not going to acquiesce in advance. And it was really, I know that other agencies made a different risk assessment, and I respect that. But we did to talk about on a regular basis of revisiting that approach. But we just didn't feel so far that was necessary. Although again, watching that very carefully, because we realized the National Council on Nonprofits is monitoring the executive orders that most impact nonprofits, and they have a good tracker on there. So you know the status, if that was what your question was. Next slide. So the three areas we're really looking at are immigration, which the orders are one is connect our clients with resources. We do serve many undocumented families. Although we do not ask them their status, but we do often know what that is. We have trained our staff on how to respond. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, would show up at our places and have taken some steps to designate private areas and things like that, which I'm sure many of you have done. We have seen some things out there about not serving, that the intention is to not serve people, but there's not been clarity around that. And that recognizes two sexes and wherever the youth felt the most comfortable with government documentation. Of executive orders that are partially in effect to prohibit grantees from engaging in DEI initiatives and requiring certification of such. We have not been asked for any certification. We would consider that very closely if we are asked. We have gotten a directive from the Office of Head Start about not funding any DEI or including it in future grant applications. And we did hear last week that some RHY grants have been deemed non-compliant because of this executive order, and that they would be asked to rewrite them or they would be considered relinquished. But we have not language to not use kind of the buzzy words that are getting a lot of attention. But we're certainly not eliminating all of the, you see those lists out there with all the words. I don't think most of them know that we have our pronouns in our email signature and a statement on our website, right? That's not what is important to them. What's important to them is how they are treated. And our commitment. But again, we have not changed anything yet, but we're considering how we would do that if we are told to. Just a couple more, just as far as communication, I do have Pat's chat email every Monday morning to staff and board, and been keeping them apprised of all of this. I have a federal frequently asked questions document on our intranet, and update that every week so that staff feel informed. And on all of our board meetings, including committee meetings, it could be the meeting about planning our gala, anything like that. It's always first on the agenda to give a federal update. And then we have a process for cascading information, from leadership down, and then from programs and departments up to leadership, to make sure that we are hearing any concerns or questions and addressing those. And so last, I would just say that, this is a crisis. It feels like an ongoing crisis that's going to last for a while. And we've been talking about, just as an organization, the Stockdale paradox. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but my predecessor at the previous CEO at Youth in Need was a very, very great leader. And this was something that he really lived by. And it's really how a lot of companies handle challenging times, is to hold on to the really sincere and deep belief that you would succeed, while at the same time confronting the harsh realities of your situation. And that was necessary to make changes any necessary changes so you could persevere. So that is really what we're trying to hold on to as we go through these times. And that, I think there's just one more slide, and which is just a picture of a cute kid.
Thank you so much, Pat. Does anybody have any questions for Pat? I just wanted to give a little space for that before I hand it over to Brennan. I think you answered the one question we got in chat during.
Are we able to ask our questions out loud, or would you prefer them in the chat? Or
you can say it out loud, sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pat. I was wondering if you could give a little more detail, and I apologize if I missed it, about any editing of current grants, so as not to.
What I heard, and I'm sharing this with, I don't know all of you, but as a former RHY program leader in our region, and had been deemed non-compliant because grants or like or original grants, but that to respond. And I don't know if respond have to be like narratives and different things would have to be rewritten, and that a response would be required within 72 hours or your grant would be considered relinquished. Now, we didn't know if the rewrite had to be within 72 hours or just to respond to say, yes, we will do this. And we have not gotten any more information. If it, you know, her impression was that they had run, you know, these narratives through their AI tool that identifies words, you know, diversity, equity, include all those things, which I'm 100% sure our grant would be flagged, you know, but we have not heard anything about that. She did also say they were working on guidance that would hopefully come along with that of what they were looking for.
Okay, thank you. That is really, really helpful. And just to clarify, were you thinking that those would come through grants.gov or perhaps through the Grant Solutions backend?
She did not know. She said she thought it would be either Grant Solutions or grants.gov.
Okay, all right.
But
Thank
she
you
was
so much.
alerting me because I'm the CEO, and she said it would come to you, and I want to make sure that you respond, because there would be, what she understood, and this was a week ago Monday, is that there would be a clock ticking for 70, you know, for 72 hours, or you would be considered to have relinquished your grant if you did not respond.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
They could be a rumor, but that, I mean, she definitely heard that. So
okay, thank you.
Sure. And if I hear anything else, I will let the national network know.
Yeah, and then we would put out an alert to members and share any advice we've heard. I mean, I would say to expect it. If I was this administration, it's what I would do if I was trying to quickly implement my policies and get rid of Biden's. But I mean, I would say probably want to be prepared now. Any other questions? Feel free to go off mute.
I saw the comment about everybody logging into Grant Solution.
With keywords to target. So I think Pat's right. They probably have put in their list of keywords and identified which RHYA grants use those words. And if this rumor is true, then everybody will be required to basically rewrite. Which again, with a multi-year grant and how this administration is operating, it makes sense that they're doing that because they can. Any other questions for Pat?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And now I'm going to hand it over to Bren.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brennan Graham. I'm the CEO network based in North Carolina. So I'm going to give you a couple of slides just about 1888. We've been serving North Carolina since then, and several years ago, about 25 years ago or so, we started doing services for runaway and homeless youth through mergers with other organizations that had been around since 1974. Each year we serve about 10,000 youth and families, and similar to Pat's organization, We have about 500 employees, $2 million annual budget. Next slide, please. So our services for Alexandria Youth Network are primarily children's mental health and behavioral health services. So a full array of supports to help young people and their families our subsidiaries, which are on the next slide, to ensure that we are able to fully support children and young adults with all of their needs. So the relatives a wide range of supports. And so those counties and the surrounding area. So again, the youth focused, the emergency shelter program, maternity housing, transitional living services, supportive housing, and a wide range of supports for families. North Carolina is one of several other states now that's working to implement an anti-DEI bill. It's already passed through our North Carolina House. Well, it's moving through the House, and so we're working on that. And these are some challenges we're experiencing. But then also, and the big one I think that really just touches everybody is balancing the compliance with these orders. Now, of course, as Pat reiterated, these orders aren't law, but there is a lot of push to follow these orders, like push from the folks who hold the purse. And so, how do you balance that while also protecting your organization? This is about money and the funds and supports that come to your organization, so you can stick to your mission. So, as an agency, Alexandria Youth Network got together. Our senior management team got together to really discuss the challenges that we're experiencing, or we believe we will experience soon, how it impacts our parent company as well as our subsidiaries. And we wanted to also be very clear that our mission is our mission. Our values are our values. And we can't just change that because we're worried about where the dollars are going to come from. And so what we did was kind of put together, and I'll say this is kind of our tentative strategy format. And I say that because things are changing and we don't want to write it in ink. So this is kind of what we penciled in and worked to communicate throughout our organization, but also communicate in a way that helps people understand that things are still going business as usual, but be prepared as the new information comes and potential challenges pop up. So there's a couple of strategies that we looked at. Slide. One, and this is one that I believe was probably one of the more difficult things for us to communicate to our staff and to our constituents, to ensure that they understand that we're not changing what we believe and how we act, but in some areas we might need to reframe what we're saying. What we've seen is many of our labels that we have for the work that we're doing have been used against us. And we want to make sure that we don't give more weapons to those who don't necessarily understand the impact of our work. And so we talked about just avoiding those politicized acronyms. DEI and LGBT plus initiatives aren't political. They're just not. They're clinical, they're ethical, and they're central to trauma-informed care. So we wanted to make sure that we were stressing that, but stressing what it is rather than labeling it. We want to make sure our young people have access to culturally competent care. We're providing non-discriminatory services. We are trauma-informed, and the overwhelming majority of our children and young adults have experienced trauma that the average person would not even be able to imagine. And so our care is based on supporting that. And when we talk about it, we have to make sure that we're explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it rather than calling a name to it. Next slide, please. We want to reframe these efforts, and I think I just saw a comment about trauma-informed being one of those forbidden words. And yeah, you're right. I saw something about that too, where there were some questions. And so, again, you talk about the services you offer, and you talk about the supports you offer, and the work that we're doing for our folks with these equitable health outcomes generally will be trauma-informed. It will be inclusive by nature. And that's why I'm glad I saw this comment. That's why we've penciled some things in. As things change, we have to kind of stay ahead of the game and make sure that we are providing the care that we need while also ensuring that people who need us know that they still can come to us. So thank you for whoever put that message in there. And then we're meeting the diverse clinical and psychosocial needs of our youth. If we talk about what we're doing rather than labeling what we're doing, talk about why we're doing it and for whom we do it, then it makes it true within our organization, but also it gives less ammunition for those who want to fight against our work. Next slide. The second strategy that we were looking at, and we again penciled in, is public facing. We're focusing on the non-discrimination access and whole child care. So when I say the non-discrimination access, what we want to be very clear about is we serve everybody who needs us, regardless of who they are, regardless of how they look, regardless of what they believe. We serve everybody. And through all of our services, as you saw before, we have a full array of supports, so we can be the whole solution for children and families. And we stress that externally. And internally, we emphasize our commitment to equity and specific supports that are available and need to be available for our young people and our staff. We want to make sure that we have an environment that ensures that everyone feels welcome to come here for services, then also be here to serve. And I'll talk a little more about that in a few seconds, but just ensuring that we have an inclusive environment for everyone. Then the other piece of that is we have to have some talking points that are available for folks who question what we're doing. And again, those talking points go back to our mission, go back to our values, and go back to the people we serve. If we can talk about that and talk about the data related to the people we serve, we're on the right track. Number 3. So along with talking about the data, we want to use it. We want to show that and we have lots of data. We have quite honestly, it's actually a data warehouse. We gather information from all sources, and we are able to analyze our data very well. We put out good information to show how well we're doing, or maybe in some areas where we need to work on doing things a little bit better. But everything that we've seen shows that we have better outcomes for our populations when we focus on those diverse needs. And we need to really promote that. So we use that, we share it. It reduces our service interruptions. We have the greater family satisfaction scores when we focus on those individual needs of families. And so while doing that, we don't necessarily have to say that we're providing services that are specific to this population. What we can say is we're giving people what they need. And we have data to show that what we're giving works. And we want to share that internally and publicly as necessary. It goes back to the last slide where you have to be aware of the scrutiny that comes with that. So you have your talking points available. But people may want to argue with data, but if you have your data tight, the argument is a very short argument. Next slide. The other is after you do all these other pieces, you still need to make sure you have your attorneys on standby. Make sure you have your legal support. Make sure you have your folks who can help advocate for you, because as we have seen, regardless of what people are saying and doing, there's always going to be someone else with another weapon, with another challenge to what you're doing that will try to stop us from ensuring that we're focusing on the population that needs it the most. And so make sure that we have our access to the legal counsel and legal supports. We can leverage our partnership with National Network for Youth, for one, Lambda Legal, other services that are available to our membership, other services that are available in our communities. And then also share our strategies discreetly. And I say that, as I'm on a national national webinar telling everybody, but share the strategies in a way that supports and protects your organization and perhaps the partners that you have in your communities, so you can work together to ensure that you're doing the absolute best for the people that you serve. Next slide. And the biggest one that I probably should have said first is that ongoing organizational communication. For us, we want to make sure that we're not letting our staff down. We're not letting our clients down. We're not letting the young people that we are charged to serve down. So we have to ensure that that message is very clear across the board. We have monthly staff chats. We do a weekly newsletter. We have a virtual feedback suggestion box that we're working to formalize right now, so we can get feedback from folks about what they're concerned about, but then we also share the information about what we know. And sometimes that sharing is, we don't know anything new yet, but just understand that we're working through this and we are on top of it. As an organization, we are staying true to our mission. After every meeting, and I didn't notice this until fairly recently, I end the meeting with go out and make a difference. And someone brought that to my attention, that's what I always say, and I guess I say it because I always mean it. We have to go out and make a difference. And sometimes it may be challenging for us. Sometimes we may have folks who are pulling us in the wrong direction or putting up roadblocks and barriers. But the young people and the families and the folks that we are charged with serving need us. And so if we can continue to talk to each other and work through those challenges together, then we're on the right track to achieving our mission and moving things forward. So those are a few of the strategies that we've tried to put together that I thought would be helpful for other folks to think about. Not necessarily to say do everything that we're doing, but to maybe take whatever you can get from that. And my hope is that as we open up to additional feedback, I can take more from you all. We all are working on this together. We don't have it all figured out. We're trying our best to ensure that we're keeping the barriers as minimal as possible and opening the door for success for our young people. So thank you all. And I guess I'll just open for any questions on anything that I've said.
Thank you, Brendan. Folks, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, go off mute, put them in chat. And I do want to remind folks, we are going to be sharing the slides after with everybody, and they'll be in the member portal as well. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, good. Now I can too. And if you have no specific questions for Brennan, we prepared a couple of questions for you all. If anybody wants to share, if there are specific challenges that you're experiencing in your communities or your state, and anybody who wants to share how you're addressing those challenges that you're experiencing. Pat had mentioned, folks are operating in a little bit of a different context if you're in a blue state or a blue community versus a red state and a red community. So it can be a little bit different what the challenges look like. And it also can look very different what support you're receiving as an organization within your community and within your state in response to what's happening at the federal level. Anybody wants to share?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Ebony. I'm a youth advocate at California Center. Is a shelter-based program where they help young people ages like 16 to 24 get back on their feet, get into housing and to different resources for like trans and non-gender and binary people. And I was just curious. I know like in the stuff that I work at, there's like a lack of transparency between like I guess the border that's that uh, clarification like what's going on. Uh, like, here, like
Sorry, Ebony, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Oh, I think they just disconnected. Hopefully they'll be back. I didn't quite get their question. Did either of you? No? Okay. Hopefully they'll be back. Does anybody else want to share or ask a question? Oh, Ebony. Can you put your question in chat maybe or try again? We couldn't hear you. Okay, we'll keep trying. Okay, anybody else? Feel free to use chat or go off mute. The other thing I'll share, we've been hearing about defend the spend. I don't know if anybody's gotten any emails from Defend the Spend at hhs.gov, but we know that some grantees have been told that they needed to provide more information for the narrative justification that normally you put in the PMS system monthly. We've been told that PMS is being replaced with Defend the Spend for RHY grantees, either temporarily or permanently, and that it may be like being beta tested at HHS, the Defend the Spend system, as a replacement to PMS, because other federal agencies are still using PMS and haven't been pushed to Defend the Spend. So I know there's been insider intel shared from federal agency staff around Defend the Spend. Some folks have put in, additional information, and to my knowledge, everybody's then ultimately received their funds. But that is something else that we're monitoring, this whole Defend the Spend stuff. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that.
Darla, this is Nicole from Lighthouse in Cincinnati. Can you guys hear me? Hi, I just wanted to just chime in that we had received the Defend the Spend emails, and so we will be submitting information through that. But then our program officer just advised to include kind of the level of detail that we're including this time in future PMS submissions. So we had not received any messaging about PMS going away.
Okay. But your program officer did give you like information about the level of detail you should provide, right?
Yeah, I will say she just kind of reiterated the bullet points that are on Defend the Spend's website and said, please answer these. So it wasn't kind of use more or less the information. It was just like, do answer the bullet points. That was the level of guidance she provided.
Yeah. That's basically what we've been hearing.
This is Valerie in Rochester. Hi, everyone. My understanding from my finance person was that we were actually asked to provide more information in PMS, but I might be wrong about where she had to provide it, but she was asked to, it was kicked back to her and asked to provide more budget justification narrative.
Ours was in Defend the Spend after the PMS was submitted.
Yeah, it takes you to a link, a Defend the Spend, and it looks like a spam. Like I've clicked on it. Not that we take federal money, but I've clicked on it. I was like, this looks like a spam, like web address. And so I know a couple of grantees like checked in being like, is this spam or real? And they're like, no, this is real, Defend the Spend. So yeah, I don't know if some folks have transitioned over to Defend the Spend or what's happening, but just wanted to flag. Pat, you had one off mute. Anything you wanted to share?
Oh, just that the National Head Start Association was reporting the same thing from Head Start grantees. And they did provide some guidance on dealing with any PMS issues, and I just emailed that to you, Darla.
Oh, thank you. So we'll include that in our next member update.
The first couple of Head Start grantees that got the email, they thought it was spam, and they called PMS and talked to staff who said, yeah, we don't know, it must be spam, ignore it. So there's like a big disconnect between PMS and Doge.
Yes, I think there is. I had gotten some text messages from folks saying Doge is in the building. So Doge entered HHS a little over 2 weeks ago, and that's when they created the Defend the Spend at hhs.gov email and started really messing with the PMS system. But yeah,
in the name of government efficiency, right?
Yeah. In the name of government efficiency, you have to provide more information. Anything else? Any other questions? And if there's anything else that any other information or resources that NN4Y could provide to support you, please let us know.
Thank you. I think kind of a lot of this is like hurry up and waiting. I appreciated the conversation, the presenters talking about kind of holding on until you have to make a decision. I think part of what'll be really interesting if the RFPs are released, if they have language like the HUD contracts, I think a lot of agencies, or at least I know we're going to struggle with, all money is not good money, right? So I think when that happens, when those RFPs come out, if they have language and the contracts are going to look like what the HUD ones are, I know I'd appreciate revisiting this kind of conversation to help us kind of walk ourselves through our own decision trees around that.
That's a good
point. Just revisiting, because at some point we have to take a more firm stand against what's being put out there, and revisiting and finding the best way to take that unified stand is, I think, going to be a necessary step.
Yeah, and I think like the kind of legal aspects too, because with like the HUD contract, they made things sound kind of crazy, but then there was the caveat of like within the law, right? And so that's why, bringing in like the National Homelessness Law Center, other folks are like, well, this is what the law actually, like there are certain federal protections in the DEI, LGBTQ space. Well, what are those? And, how can you comply with the NOFO and contracts and still do those? And so there's, so to the extent that we can provide those resources 100%, we have those relationships, we can bring kind of those experts in to help. I will also say I did hear that RHYA NOFOs, 3 of them are approved, 1 is not, and that 3 of them could be released any day. The 3 that have made it through the process are BCP, TLP, and MGH. Street outreach is still held up and not approved. And we've also heard that RHYA remains funded in every president's budget and kind of DOGE plan, level funded, no cuts and no elimination. So we have heard that. We also have heard that the FISB reduction in force, that they did submit a plan. They all had to submit plans on how that the regional work and everything would be redistributed, and they're just waiting to hear if the plan that they submitted on kind of the reorg, like if that plan is approved. And then once it's approved, they'll be able to share out what kind of the new structure is. So for a little bit of, I guess, hope, if you will, we take those as positive signs because other programs we care about seem to be in much more precarious places. Okay, well, with that, I am going to move us along so we can provide some updates. We want to make sure everybody's taking full advantage of all of our membership benefits. So I am going to pass it over to Kaila, our amazing communications associate.
Hi, everyone. So I just put the slide here for those of you who are new. We are a membership organization based in DC, working to prevent and end youth, young adult, young parent family homelessness. We provide a lot of resources for like everyone broadly. What makes members different is a little bit more like higher level stuff, specifically like action things for you guys around like funding updates, agency policy, all those kind of things. I wanted to go through right now, if you can go to the next slide, Darla. We do have quarterly meetings, these for executive support, and then we also have policy sessions. The policy session happened a couple weeks ago. We didn't record that one, it was more off the record, but we do have the slides and materials discussed. There was a lot of stuff around like navigating these executive orders and things around like the budget reconciliation and appropriations. And then this obviously was our executive support meeting. We haven't scheduled the ones yet for the next quarter, but in the survey that you guys will fill out, you can let us know if there's specific like topics or dates or that kind of thing, so we can make sure we're providing stuff that's most helpful and relevant to you guys. Next slide, Darla. And then I also just wanted to flag that we do have our monthly newsletter out. We had one in March and one in April, I think about a week or two ago. And like I said, this is really just about like cutting through the noise and having very like granular, concrete updates that are really relevant to like youth homelessness service providers. And our senior policy associate Trinity writes these and they're amazing. So if you haven't already, definitely take a look. The links are in the slides we're going to share. They're also in the membership portal. If you can go to the next slide, Darla. So this is something new that we have. There's a link that's in the slides. It's also if you just go to like, and then for youth.org/membership, you'll see it up there. But basically you guys log in with your email and then you can kind of access everything. All the member benefit links are going to be there, along with if you need to change like your email or your subscription status, check your contribution. If you're an organizational member, I'll be the point of contact. We'll be able to see the financial stuff. Sorry, I had a lot of coffee today. But all this stuff will be there, all the links. And so the way it works is anyone who has the domain email of an organization, you should automatically be good to go. If you're not, or if you're having any issues, please let me know. You can go to the next slide, Darla. You do have to be, oh, one more slide, sorry. You do have to be subscribed to our listserv to be able to get in. So if you're not subscribed, or you don't have the domain email, or you just have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. I'm happy to help out any way I can. And I think that's all me, Darla.
Awesome. We just want to flag that we are launching a Youth Action Leadership Certificate Program for young advocates ages 18 to 24 and their allies. It'll be 8 weeks of live virtual sessions. Young people will gain skills in youth advocacy, housing and homelessness systems, effective stakeholder relationships, meeting facilitation, project management, and leading YAPs. We're deeply invested in ensuring that young people with lived expertise have the skills and expertise they need to succeed in those roles that we want young people to be in, to share power and shared leadership in our work. So we're excited. If you're interested, fill out the form. We have a lot of interest. And so we're just trying to track on our end where the interest is so that we can try to map out how we can ensure that as many people and young people who are interested in receiving this certificate are in queue.
Recording in progress.
Otherwise, um, all the chaos that is happening. We also provide consulting services and work, contract work. And so if you are looking for support in any of these areas, please reach out. Members do get a 25% discount on our per hour rate. And all members get 2 hours of free consulting services. So if you need support and we can support you, please let us know. And members are prioritized for all of our contract work. And I think that's it. This is our survey. I think we'll send it out, but also here's the link to it and the QR code. Please complete the survey. Let us know how we can best support you. And thank you so much. Thanks to Pat and Brennan for sharing. And thank you all for being here, for being members. Have a good rest of your week, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kaila.